This video is brought to you by americascardroom.com. Before we get into this awesome breakdown hand with two elite players, we want to tell you about the code POKERGUYS that you can use on americascardroom.com for a 100% deposit bonus up to $1,000.
The online Super Series starts December 7th and culminates on December 18th with a $1 million guaranteed main event.
What do we say?
We say, dem some bones.
Dem some bones. $1 million guaranteed. Get on ACR, get you some poker. Huck Seed won the main event of the World Series of Poker in 1996, and this is the hand he did it on. I'm just kidding. There's no footage of that. Nobody knows what happened in that hand or anything like that. But Huck Seed has remained a relevant poker player, and this is a hand from the Heads Up Poker Championship in 2009.
He's up against Vanessa Rousso. They're playing a best of three because it's for the title. This is the first of those three, though. And Huck is the effective stack with about 27 blinds.
Right. This hand was suggested to us on Twitter by James Kimball. If you have a suggestion for the breakdown, tweet it at us and include a YouTube link.
We're going to break down this hand as we go, so get ready for some analysis.
That a little bit of a new direction there out of the big blind.
Queen 8 suited for Huck. He limps in. Ace 5 for Vanessa. And she'll raise to 75,000.
Follow the leader.
Huck calls.
Call.
Buck 50 up for grabs.
Aces for Vanessa, queens for Huck.
Both players catching a piece of the flop. Vanessa with the better of the two hands.
She bets 75,000. Huck calls again.
Pot up to 300 grand now.
10 of spades on the turn.
Check.
Check, check.
Huck checking back the turn here with his exact hand makes a ton of sense. It seems like one of those spots where usually, just usually, if he bets, he's going to get called by better and fold out worse. And you really don't want to be in that spot.
Absolutely. It is interesting that Vanessa decides to check, seeing that she has top pair, and the pot and Huck's stack are pretty similar at this point. There's 300K in the pot, and he's got 400K behind. You'd think she would often bet there just because she's got good value getting
So
out
what
of
are some
top pair.
reasons? So she might check here. Let's figure it out.
Okay, well, one thing is she can induce some bluffs this way, specifically from hearts, I would think.
Right, from hearts, but also from other random floats. Because Vanessa raised pre-flop, and Huck might think Vanessa sometimes has an ace, but not that often compared to the times that she doesn't have an ace. So it's an easier way to rep an ace himself if he just flats on the flop and then bets the turn.
For sure. Yeah. Another thing, too, is it's harder to get value from hands that are slightly worse than ace 5. So a hand like Huck has exactly. Yeah. If we bet again on the turn, he probably might just find a fold. Maybe, maybe not. A 7 almost certainly is going to fold, though. He might call with the queen again. But on the river, if it goes check, check, and we bet, it's going to be really hard to fold the queen, and he might even call with a 10 or a 7.
Right. So she's trying to get 2 streets of value out of her hand, and she thinks the best way to do that is by checking the turn. So fair enough.
Yeah,
right?
Seems reasonable.
So the real question here now is, what does it look like Huck has to Vanessa?
I mean, I think it looks like he's got almost exactly what he has, which is a showdownable hand. Because I would expect personally him to bet those hearts if he had them a lot of the time on the turn once she checks on this kind of a board. So I think he's got one pair a lot.
It seems likely that he does. That heart thing, that thing you said right there, that's going to end up being really important. That's a spoiler alert. But if Huck is capable of checking hearts here is a really big question, and it's important to the rest of this hand.
4 of hearts on the river. Vanessa bets 100,000.
A lot of players would have tried to move Vanessa off her hand on the turn, but not Huck.
He goes all in.
He's going to try to move her off on the river here, representing a flush. If Vanessa calls him, he'll be down 1-0.
I mean, you definitely play it like you have a better hand than I do. What do you limp with and then call my raise? I mean, King Jack, I guess. King Jack, you hit the gut shot. Or maybe you call me with 2 hearts on the flop. I give you credit.
Victory was just one word away, that word being call. Instead, Huck bluffs his way to the lead.
That's an important thing the announcer just said. Huck bluffs his way to the lead. And we as the audience know that he should bluff if he wants to win because we know he has the worst hand. But it's really cool that he turns near the very top of his potential calling range into a bluff. That's a really cool play.
I mean, you have to have like a really good bag of tricks when your first name is Huckleberry. I mean, it's just going through life that way must have been brutal growing up, right?
He's done all right for himself.
I mean, he absolutely has.
Yeah.
But I'm saying 3rd grade, 4th grade, kind of tough.
Maybe it was cool where he's
Come here,
from.
Huckleberry. Come on, it was not easy.
This guy was a bully, obviously. You can
was.
tell.
I
You
definitely
can tell. Anyway, it's really cool that Huck finds a way to turn a pretty good hand into a bluff here, where you would expect him usually to just call, and we think it's because Vanessa made a big sizing mistake.
Yeah, so on the river, what she's trying to do is get value out of worse hands and set it up so she can easily fold when the better hands will shove on her.
Right.
So that's why she only bets 100,000.
That's called a blocker bet.
And it makes sense,
Yeah.
right? Except for this. It's really obvious.
Yeah, it's not an amateur she's playing against. This guy won the main event in 1996. He's a good player.
Yeah.
He knows what he's doing. You have to be balanced against a player like this. And if your blocker bets are always medium strength hands, and I'm not sure Vanessa's are, but this one certainly is, and Huck seems to think that it's a medium strength hand that can fold, that's a real problem against a pro.
And let's look at this. Huck moves in with a hand that's only slightly worse than Vanessa's ace-5, but he understands that when she bets 100,000 into a pot of 300,000 and he only has 400,000 back, she's never doing it with a worse hand than what he has.
No.
So he can effectively blow her off better queens and sometimes aces, I guess 2 kings also. Once in a while, because those are the kinds of hands that are really in her range, and that's about it.
Yeah.
And unless she can be balanced and do this with hearts too, but she would usually bet hearts on the turn.
Right, so betting 100K here makes it obvious to Huck that he can move in and win, and that he can't call and win. That's crazy and awesome that Huck figures it out, but it's also a huge mistake for Vanessa to let that happen. The next question is, what is Huck repping here? And the answer really is only hearts.
Yeah.
On the turn, we did say it's important to note whether or not Huck can check back hearts here. Jonathan really doesn't think Huck's going to be checking back hearts very often.
No, I think he's going to usually bet his non-showdownable hearts, like 6-4 of hearts, things like that, because the board is such that Vanessa really could have raised and now be giving up because the board is just not friendly to a lot of hands she might have raised with lower pocket pairs and things like that. And I think he's just going to bet those to try and win because you only get there 20% of the time, which kind of blows.
Those are all fair points, but that being said, Huck has to have checkbacks with hearts in his range there in order to make this move, at least in order to make the move make sense.
Yeah.
Because if he never checks back hearts in the turn, he's really only repping hearts on the river here. Maybe sometimes a slightly worse hand like King Jack, but it's also hard for him to have that hand.
Really hard.
So it means he has to be checking back hearts on the turn sometimes, or else this doesn't make any sense and Vanessa should call.
Right. So the thing is, probably he's got some checkbacks with hearts to be balanced and all that. But whether he does or not, it's not even about that. Is the perception there that he does, right? If Vanessa believes he can check back hearts on the turn, then he can move in, and she seems to really believe it because she just starts saying, I think you have a better hand than me. What hands could you do this with?
Right.
And only comes up with very strong hands.
She clearly buys the story, so Huck knows where he is as far as that leveling war is concerned, it seems, and it really works out for him. And honestly, it doesn't really look like Vanessa's ever even contemplating calling. And this is kind of lends itself to the idea of the blocker bet being bad, because I think if she didn't blocker bet, she might think about it a little bit more. Also, Huck probably wouldn't have made this move if she bet a more normal amount.
Right.
But it's like she has this precognition idea that, oh, he's going to move in and I'm going to fold. I don't actually have to think about it. I just have to make it look like I'm thinking about it. And that's a real problem.
Against non-pros, you can do this, and that works really, really well.
Yes, it does.
Against pros, though, you have to have some other moves in your arsenal. One of them is like what Grant said, which is just to bet more. If she bets 200,000 or 175,000 or something like that, Huck probably won't think he has full equity to move in and can't make the play.
And he might even call. So she wins a huge pot instead of losing a huge pot.
The other way, though, to combat this, if you're going to make a blocker bet is, well, there's 2 ways. One is to have a flush yourself sometimes.
Yeah.
To play it, sort of have a weird line with it, but to ultimately block with the hand that the other person might be repping and you're sort of pretending to be afraid of. Or to call when they move in, even with your medium strength hands once in a while. That sort of protects you from the bluffs.
Let's just avoid that situation and bet a normal amount instead and be balanced in that way. And that way we can get called by hands like Huck's instead of moved in on and lose the pot.
I mean, when you look at the board, it does seem like Huck likely has a pretty strong hand.
Yeah.
When he checks back the turn, it feels like he's pretty strong.
Yeah.
That he can then move in on the river, I mean.
It's a really cool play by Huck.
It's a great play. If you want to hear our responses to our favorite comments from you on this video, click right up here.
Huck Seed won the main event. I talked about that earlier. You know who else won the main event twice? Doyle Brunson.
I was going to say Stu Unger.
Well, yeah, but
Johnny Chan.
We haven't done any hands with Stu Unger, unfortunately,
Right.
but we've done a bunch with Doyle Brunson.
Yes.
If you want to see a bunch of Doyle Brunson hands, click right up there.
Yes. do that. There are lots of good ones.
Yeah.
Really cool ones, for sure. Also, check out our podcast where we go into much more detail about this hand. It's called The Breakdown, and subscribe to our video channel.
Wow, you are great at that.